Biosafety, right? Biosafety. What is this biosafety? I've already told you. The example of Whaleshore calf, you remember? Whaleshore calf, Kerala. Let's discuss another very important topic. It falls both in that interface of science and technology and environment. But it's another examiner's favorite. Often you get one question either in your prelims or sometimes also in your mains. What is this? Genetically modified organisms. You heard this name? GM crops, genetically modified organisms. What are these? GM crops or genetically modified crops? Any idea? Anyone?
Those crops to deal with the adverse conditions of the soil or climatic conditions.
What you are saying is function, right?
Those functions will be added to another like through gene editing we add those functions and create a modified.
Correct. Technology part he is saying. It's as simple as it. It's premised on the idea of why is this happening? Auto erase. Genome editing.
Can you use white color?
You want me to use white color? Yeah. Genome editing. What is genome editing? Say. This is a gene. Gene. What is gene?
Something which carries the structure of
Species.
character species.
Yeah, correct. This is a human cell. Inside the human cell, you have something called as nucleus. Inside the nucleus, you have how many chromosomes? We have humans.
24.
We have 23 pairs. Humans. Each human cell will have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Among them, why today it's behaving in a weird way today? Yeah. 22 chromosomes or 22 pairs. 22 pairs are called autosomes. Autosomes means non-sexual chromosomes. And if it is a guy, he will have X, Y in their cell. For girl, it will be. So this XY, XX, they're actually the sex chromosomes. They determine sex. So that's the difference between a male cell and a female cell. XX chromosomes, 22XX, we call actually this as karyotype. You need not know what a karyotype is, but yes, this is how generally the chromosome will be. And chromosomes, what's happening? This thing, okay. Yes. So chromosome will be like this. You would have seen it. Chromosome, and inside the, like not inside the chromosome, chromosome is nothing but a DNA like this. On this DNA, you will have something called as genes. Something called as genes on this DNA. So what would these genes do? What would these genes do? These genes they would determine hereditary characters. Why most often your nose will be like your mom's, or you talk like your dad, or you have baldness like your maternal uncle? All these things are nothing but hereditary characters. These are nothing but hereditary characters. These are hereditary characters. Means this is the information, which gets passed on from one generation to another generation. And where is this information embedded? this information is embedded in our genes. This information is embedded in our genes. As simple as it. You know now what genes is. This much of understanding would suffice. This is one gene, and this is another gene. Let's call it gene A. Let's call it gene B. Genome editing. One commonsensical way of understanding genome editing. You cut something from here.
Changing the characteristics of the genome.
And paste something here. You are changing. Cut something here, paste something there. You are editing it. Cutting something here, pasting something here. Theoretically, what all possibilities exist? Almost all living organisms will have, not almost, every living organism will have gene, including virus. So what all sources from which I can move here to here? Everything. From virus, from a bacteria, from a protozoa, from an animal, from a plant, from a human, to a virus, to a bacteria, again, to a protozoa, to an animal, to a plant, to a human. Means theoretically, it's all about cutting, pasting, right? You can do it from anyone to anyone. All possibilities exist. Theoretically. Doesn't mean that we had actually mastered this technology, but this possibilities exist. This possibility exists. Clear up to this point. So, genome editing, and last before year UPSC also has asked a question on it. Now we have advanced tools like so what is this CRISPR Cas9 system? It's a kind of gene editing tool. It's a kind of gene editing tool. Gene editing tool. We can also call it in layman's language molecular scissors. Molecular scissors. I'll cut from here, I'll paste something there. This is some basics about genome editing. The same technology I can use, to produce crops. The same technology I use to produce crops, such crops are called as genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crops. Some also call it transgenic GM crops, transgenic crops, genetically modified crops, transgenic crops. So, as I have told it, all possibilities exist of cutting, pasting. By using this technology, there are many things I can do. What many things I can do? I can produce a, say, I can produce a pest resistant crop. I can develop one. Drought resistant variety, or I can develop one Salt tolerant variety, pest resistant, drought resistant, salt tolerant, or say for instance, can I produce a biofortified crop? It's a biofortified crop. Yeah. What is fortification?
Constant species and small phases and again
No. What is fortification?
Adding some nutrients.
Fortify. To add, to buttress, to support is called as fortify. That's the literal sense. Any example? Day-to-day example.
fortified rice.
Yeah. Iodized salt. Why salt? Why we should add iodine to salt? To only salt? Our idea is to supplement iodine. I want to supplement iodine. Why I should use only salt?
Everyone
You only use little.
No, it's not about.
Salt is a basic thing.
Everybody use it.
Everybody uses it, but then only.
We will fortify with something which is widely used. Is there any house where salt is not used? Obviously no. Everybody in every house will use salt. So it's mandatory. Not mandatory, everybody will consume salt. So if I add iodine to salt, definitely people will consume, because Indian soils are deficient in iodine. Indian soils in general, they are deficient in iodine. So if I can add iodine to salt, it will ensure that people will consume iodine, because iodine deficiency is somewhat higher in India. It's not that expensive chemical wherein we can't afford to give to our citizens. So of course, government also has made it mandatory now that without iodization, salt should not be sold. Anyways, coming to then what is now biofortification?
Adding the nutrients
Good. How do you add biologically?
by transplanting the gene.
As simple as that. Say, right from the, say, I will develop a seed by maybe GM technology or other hybrid variety techniques. I'll develop a seed. The seed is such that, say this is rice. But I am including one gene in this seed. This gene will add to vitamin A. So now what it will become? It will become, this is called as golden rice. Means vitamin A enriched rice. Vitamin A enriched rice. Just like that, if I can produce vitamin A enriched rice, why can't I produce iron rich wheat? Or why can't I produce protein rich maize, like that? So I will select one staple crop. Staple crop means one which is consumed widely is called as staple crop. In India, what is our staple crop? Rice is our staple crop. Wheat is our staple crop. Maize also in some parts of the country it's our staple crop. So we take one staple crop. To the staple crop, we will try to add the nutrient which we want to supplement. Nutrient which we want to supplement, I'll add to that so-called staple crop. All these possibilities exist, and in a country with high incidence of hidden hunger, in our country hidden hunger is very high. What is this hidden hunger? Anyone?
Food security, but then not nutrition.
Huh?
You have enough food, but then not nutrition.
Very good, very good. Hidden hunger means, see, now we have largely satisfied the need for carbohydrates and proteins, not proteins, carbohydrates we can say, and fats also to some extent we are catering to. But understand very carefully, our diet must be a balanced diet. Our diet must be a balanced diet. Balanced diet means, so we should take that recommended dietary allowance. We all should take that recommended dietary allowance. It's an important term. Recommended, certain dietary allowances are recommended. Recommended means how much of carbohydrates we all should take, how much of proteins we all should consume on daily basis, how much of fats we should consume on daily basis, how much of vitamins, how much of minerals, how much of antioxidants. There is a set proportion for everything. Means like for us to be healthy, for us to remain healthy, we have to consume a diet which is a balanced one. Means we have to consume or we have to take a recommended dietary allowance, only then it will become a balanced diet. But Indian diets are what? Indian diets are dominated by carbohydrates. We eat lots of rice than what is necessary. That's the reason we all have bellies. Of course, in your age you won't get, once you reach my age, we'll experience that. Carbohydrate consumption is more in Indian context. So is more than necessary. That's the reason we are also now emerging as the diabetic capital of the world. Reason why we have so many cases of diabetes is because people are consuming more than required quantity of carbohydrates. Otherwise, see, it should be as I've told, it should be a proper balance, right? Proteins people have to consume, fats people have to consume, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, everything should be there in the diet. But people are consuming less and less of it. Reason being they are expensive, but they are not available always. Fruits have become so expensive. Vegetables also are expensive. So only thing that is available at lesser prices, carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are available at lesser. Even pulses are also expensive. That's the reason protein intake also is less. Oils, except for palm oil, good variety of oils are expensive. Not everybody can afford. So fats also we are taking, but not healthy fats. Healthy fat we are not taking. That's why you see the lipid profiles of most of the Indian patients. We find good cholesterol will be less, bad cholesterol will be high. Even if bad cholesterol is low, good cholesterol will be less, without exception. For most of the people, 90% of the people are like that. Why this is happening? This is happening because we are not taking a recommended dietary allowance, and this is further compounding the problem of hidden hunger. Hidden hunger means outwardly he must be looking chubby and healthy, but he must have been deprived of these nutrients. He must have been deprived of these nutrients. That is this very important concept of hidden hunger. So one way we can address this problem of hidden hunger in the country is fortification and biofortification. So yes, can I say that GM crops has the potential to address hidden hunger? See, so many benefits we have because of GM crops. Pest resistant, drought resistant, salt tolerant, biofortification. You can also produce climate change resilient. I'll tell what is climate change resilient when I talk about the chapter on climate change. But yes, we can also adapt our crops to changing climatic conditions. All these possibilities exist. Now, going a little further, let's quickly list various benefits of GM crops. We have already discussed certain things, like different varieties of crops we can produce. Production of desired variety. Production of desired variety. What else? Come on. Participate. What benefits I'll have?
Per acre yield is much higher.
Yeah, agriculture production and productivity will increase. It's very important. You should say that. Agricultural productivity will improve. When agricultural productivity improves, definitely income security, food security, food security, income security of the farmers, food security of the common man, and also nutritional security of the common man. Nutritional security of the common man would be taken care. This is nothing new, you already know. Food security, you know, income security, you know, nutritional security, you know. All these things will be taken care. Then what else?
Irrigational demand can be lesser.
Those
Our
crops,
nutrition, hidden hunger can be addressed.
Nutritional security.
those crops can be grown in which the areas which doesn't support even that crop.
Productivity.
Productivity, agriculture productivity.
Water usage will be decreased.
Very good, isn't it? Resource intensiveness of the agriculture can be decreased. Means we can move a step closer to sustainable agriculture. Resource intensiveness. Resource intensiveness.
So can we include less use of fertilizers in system?
That's what I'm about to say. Tell. That's the same idea. Resource intensiveness means different inputs, ma. Resource intensiveness. A decrease in resource intensiveness means a decrease in inputs. What are all inputs? Less fertilizer, less water, less pesticide, less weedicide, whatever it is. So, I am not only using less resources, less inputs, cost savings for farmer, again income security. Cost savings for farmer will happen, isn't it? And with less investment, I am getting more production. Less investment, more production, again income security. And I am also contributing positively to environment. I am also contributing positively to environment. Contributing positively to environment. How contributing positively to environment? I am not using all those resources unnecessarily, right? Not stagnating agricultural land with water unnecessarily, stagnating the agricultural land with water, using less fertilizer, using less pesticide, using less weedicide, isn't it? So these are some of the benefits. Means of course I can produce desired variety of crops. Maybe we can produce new varieties, new taste, new texture, greater shelf life. Why not? If I have,
We can change the barren land into agriculture land by this way.
that's what, like if I choose a drought resistant variety, then with less water also I can grow the crops. When I am growing the crop, even with less water, what you are saying will definitely happen. Yes. Anything to add? Yes. These are the benefits of GM crop. Then have you heard that GM crops are often protested? Environmentalists, they often say GM crops we should not encourage.
It affects the biodiversity.
It affects the biodiversity. How?
We are introducing a new species in that area. So it may overtake the other
Yeah.
crops or other
Good.
crops in that area.
Yes, that's a very valid and genuine concern. The same thing we have also discussed in the context of Welshure calf. Welshure calf is a native variety. Kerala government tried to introduce a hybrid variety. And we have seen what happened to the numbers of the Welshure calf. Similarly, yeah, any other things?
Impact on human health.
How?
I don't know how, sir, but I mean, I've seen
You read it somewhere.
that research and development is still in the initial stages of GM crops. So,
Mm.
the impact.
So food safety concerns. Okay.
The existing species has come from millions of years of evolution, so it is in a balanced state. Now, after we modify it, we are creating an imbalance, introducing a new element into the equation.
Mm.
We won't know what.
So you are playing with the ecosystem.
We won't know what the repercussions are. We won't on the long term.
Okay, agree with you. Anything else to add? Yes. Try to understand. And of course, the points you guys have told are very valid. First things first. GM crops would have impact on the Seed sovereignty of the farmers. So what is this sovereignty? What is sovereignty? You're all political science students, I guess, isn't it? Sovereignty means?
Independence to decide freely without any.
Yeah. Ability to take a decision on our own without being influenced by anyone or anybody is called as sovereignty. Seed sovereignty of farmers. Seed sovereignty means farmers' autonomy or farmers' choice to decide upon what they want to or what seeds they want to use for the purpose of cultivation. Say, why I am saying this? These GM technologies or GM seed technologies or GM crop technologies, often they come with terminator technology. What is this terminator technology? Means, say, this is a GM plant. It has given a crop. Along with the crop, some seeds might have been there. If I take these seeds and if I sow them, they will not grow into a new plant because these seeds are not fertile. These seeds are sterile. They are sterile. The seeds are sterile. They will not grow into a new crop. I have to treat these seeds. In some chemicals. And often these chemicals are patented.
Why don't they evolve with time, sir? Like when a crop grows, on the evolution process, you need to evolve with the environment.
The technology is such that they have embedded in it. So the seeds that come out of this are terminator seeds. Simple. Terminator seeds means you sow them, they don't grow. Why they don't grow? They'll grow only when you treat them with some chemicals. Yeah, I'm coming to that. Yes. So the chemicals are patented chemicals. Means only few companies, very few companies in the world, that to their powerful agricultural multinational corporations, seed companies, they hold those patents. This is like, now when they hold this patent, it's their wish. They can control the price, isn't it? Because very few companies have this patent, they can control the price. They'll quote whatever price they want, we have to buy it. At a point of time, they not only control the price, they may dictate or they may deliberately create shortages. So they'll try to create the demand-supply mismatches deliberately because you have only few players, they can do all these things. And at a point of time, they may influence cropping pattern. Means, say, they'll tell that for Rayalaseema region, we will be supplying only these seeds. Or for Godavari region, we will be supplying only these seeds. Means they'll take entire cropping pattern into their hands. This has happened. I'm not exaggerating anything. Corporates are known for even more notorious things, isn't it? India was under the control of British, not because of British government. It's because of the greed of East India Company. It's all in the corporates. Corporates are known for all crazy stuff. They have done worse things than that. This possibility always exists. We cannot write off. So yes, they can influence crop pattern. At point of time, they may determine, they can have impact on the food security of a country. If it's a small country, they can even determine the food security of such countries. It's like something as basic as food falling in the hands of corporates. Yes, there are many corporates whose budgets are bigger than the budgets of many countries. Yes, there are some companies whose annual budget is bigger than budget of some of the countries also. So definitely yes, they can do all these things. So shortages they may create, prices they'll manipulate, they can also influence cropping pattern as per their requirements. Ultimately, farmer losing the sovereignty. Farmer losing the sovereignty means his autonomy, his freedom to cultivate a crop of his choice. Then other possibility, seed diversity, which you guys have already mentioned. Seed diversity, simple. For the next 3-4 cropping seasons, not 3-4, at least maybe for next 10 years, if I am cultivating only GM crop, I am not cultivating any native variety of crop, and I also have not taken any initiative. To safeguard native seed variety. I have not done anything to safeguard native seed variety, and I am encouraging cultivation only of GM crop. So what will happen in next 10 to 15 years? We will lose all the native varieties. As simple as that. Something which we have developed over centuries, we will lose in 10-20 years. We may afford to lose, we can lose if we have completely documented the genetic merit of all the native varieties. Let us lose, okay, but before losing, did we completely document the genetic merit, means all good things with native variety? We have not done it. Without doing it, how can we afford to lose? We have not mapped the genome. We have not mapped the genome of all the native crops or indigenous crops, but we cannot afford to lose like that. So seed diversity would be lost. Then we will have only limited variety of seeds. Then yes, as Hari Krishna said, food safety also is a concern. We cannot just say that there are no food safety issues. Then, apart from this, the point which you guys told, that is genetic erosion. Genetic erosion means, yes, we don't know the repercussions. By some chance, if this gene which we have created, new genome or new gene which we have created, if it escapes from it, does that possibility exist? Possibilities always exist, isn't it? Virus can pull out a gene from any organism and they can in turn implant that gene into other organism. That is how cancers also, some types of cancers also, they get started. So that possibility exists. There is theoretically it is possible. Nowadays, as of now, we don't have examples to say that genetic erosion, wherein genes escaping and genes contaminating and genes causing issue, we don't have any evidences. We don't have examples. But theoretically, possibility exists, isn't it? For all things related to science and technology, we have to have that vision. Otherwise, what we end up regretting for the decisions we have taken. So we should have that, planning. We should be in a position to visualize what consequences this will have in the future, isn't it? Look how now we are reeling under this crisis of cyber financial crimes. We could not predict it. At the time of introduction of digital transaction, we did not imagine that the magnitude of these financial crimes would be to this extent. Had we imagined and had we planned ourselves well at the beginning stage, now things would have been out of hand. Things would have been controllable. But now, yes, most often the money people who are losing in financial crimes, cyber financial crimes, it's becoming difficult for even police or law and order machinery to bring that money back. So it's all because we have not visualized adequately all the problems this technology would bring in the future. So nothing wrong to be proactive and nothing wrong to visualize or at least make a scenario of what all possible problems or what all possibilities exist in the future. So what all we discussed till now? I told about genome editing, what is genome editing, and we discussed about what are the benefits of GM crops, and I also told you guys what are the issues with the GM crops. Let's imagine a 15 marker has come up in your exam. Now, what stand should I take? Should I say yes for GM or no for GM?
Yes, sir.
Yes for GM. Why, ma?
Because we need to put
Huh?
government.
We need to?
Go with the development.
No, I won't say such things, at least. Of course, it's, definitely you can constructive criticism of GM is not government, right? Yeah.
Development.
GM is a technology.
More R&D, if at all more R&D is infused into the GM crops, and if it comes from wider consensus, taking in the view of all the stakeholders, and if it is possible, we can go for the same.
Okay, that's a good and diplomatic answer.
Also, like stated, like we need to maintain the catalog of all the native seeds varieties, all the exclusive properties of those varieties in a detailed format, so that we can again recreate the things in future.
Very good, very good. Yes.
Instead of taking over all the native crops, we can give some area to go for GM crops itself, particularly for GM crops, and some for some particular area for native crops. So both the crops will grow simultaneously. So both the species will survive in long run. So if
Is it practical? Of course. Suggestion is good.
Way forward.
Okay, any other ideas? Santosh?
Regulated use of GM crops will be better.
How?
Regulated and monitoring any agency type like
Do we have already?
GMAC.
No, we already have Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, we already have something called as Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. We also have a Biodiversity Act 2002. We also have National Biodiversity Authority, isn't it?
Do we have a national seed bank?
National Seed Bank. I don't think so, but we have, I'll come to that, seed banks. I'm coming to that, yes. Any other ideas? Yes. Here, one very important lesson for you guys. Never say no to technology. Never say no to technology. That can be GM technology. That can be digital technology. That can be space technology. That can be nuclear technology. Whatever technology it is, nanotechnology. Never say no to technology. Because no human society has ever progressed without adapting technology. Technology is directly proportional to civilization. Technology is directly proportional to civilization, and no human society ever progressed by rejecting technology. But then you must be getting it out. Technology has certain problems. So we must make an effort to minimize the negative fallouts of the technology, maximize the positives of the technology. It's very, very important. Any technology, all technologies will have negatives. All technologies will also have benefits. So what human society is supposed to do? Humanity is supposed to minimize the negative fallouts of technology, maximize the positives of technology. Maximize the positives of technology. In this case, let us see how I can minimize the negatives and how I can maximize the positives associated with GM technology. I'll start with this. Food safety. Food safety is a concern, but already 3 trillion meals have already been consumed. 3 trillion meals world over already consumed. Countries like US, Canada, certain Western countries, they have already given permission for GM food crops also. Do we have GM food crop in our country?
BT cotton
We don't have. We haven't yet given commercial permission for any GM food crop. Be very clear about it. We do not have a GM food crop in our country. We do not have a GM food crop in our country. Presently, we have only BT cotton. Yes, the ones you have read in newspapers, BT brinjal, BT mustard, they are still in the stage of field trials. They are just doing field trials. But large scale cultivation, there is no permission. There are no GM food crops in our country for time being. Be aware of this. So yes, what I am trying to say, 3 trillion meals are already consumed now. 3 trillion meals are already consumed. 3 trillion meals are already consumed. And that too in countries where they have better food safety standards than us. You think US have lesser food safety standards than us? Or Canada has lesser foods? We eat all nonsense, right? Golgappa, everything on roads, we eat. So definitely they have better food safety standards than what we do. But they themselves are allowing their citizens to eat GM food. Sir, these days we are eating a lot of imported food, isn't it? You go to Ratnadeep, you go to heritage stores, we have lots of packaged foods. That too we are consuming different varieties of jams, squashes or oreganos, all these things now we use as seasonings and all. These are all imported food, right? How do I ensure that the food which I am eating and all this soya oil, soya bean oil, olive oils, though government says that we will not allow GM food, but in the country as big as ours, there are hardly some 8 to 10 labs to test whether the food that we are buying is GM or not. Means without our knowledge, we have already consumed lots of GM food. It should have already happened. Our laboratories do not have the capacity to test all the food samples which are coming to us from different countries, whether they are GM or non-GM. We are also importing food from GM countries. We are also importing from GM countries, and our present capacities, especially the laboratory capacities, do not allow us to do proper sampling or proper testing of all the food samples which are coming. So what's the fun? Whereas the farmers of other countries, they are getting benefited because of higher agricultural productivity, why should we deprive Indian farmers? Why should we deprive Indian farmers of the benefits of a technology? Isn't it? That's one side of the argument. Then seed sovereignty, you can address. How we can address? By public research and development. Isn't it? As Aditya told, public research and development. We have one of the world's largest agricultural laboratory system, ICAR. Indian Council of Agricultural Research is one of the biggest organizations in the world, people call it. We invest lots of money in it. There are laboratories distributed all over the country. Good funding support. Good number of scientists are there. Let's use our agriculture R&D system, publicly funded R&D system. Then if government is doing R&D, if government itself is developing GM technology, then okay, it can give GM seeds at subsidized prices to farmers. So publicly funded R&D.
And patent should not be given to the private.
That's what it's publicly funded means. Patent also will be with the government, isn't it? Yes. If I do publicly funded R&D, then there is no issues like any private or any corporate having this patent. Then government can give this at cheaper prices or maybe at zero prices, at zero cost to farmers. Possibility. Then addressing the seed diversity, yes, we have to have seed banks. We have to have seed banks for time being. Until we document the genetic merit, let's have seed banks. And in the seed banks, let's preserve. Let them be localized. Rather than having one at the national level or one at the state level, let them be localized so that all the local varieties can be properly stored at our own locality. Then we will go for documenting the genetic merit. First things first, let's have village level or mandal level seed banks properly cryopreserved so that we can ensure that they will be remaining at least for next 5 to 10 years till we document the genetic merit.
So, but wouldn't that be economically costly? Having so many
Seed banks.
seed banks.
It's not that
Just
expensive.
having one-
It's as good as having in warehouse, cold storage. and we not even seeds we not store in bulk, right? Just 2-3 gunny bags of seeds would suffice. It's as much as an investment in a cold storage. We can afford to. We have to also.
New Zealand has a
Seed banks, there are many seed vaults all over the world, especially that Svalbard Sea Vault. It's in Greenland somewhere, I guess. It's one of the, because yeah, if any apocalyptic event happens and all of us go, so at least for next generation they should know how to cultivate, what to cultivate, right? So we have created one seed bank so that our possible species may use it anyways. But yes, we have one seed vault or seed bank. Yes, and as the problem of genetic erosion possibility exists, so we have to generate adequate awareness among people about this. So we can conclude by saying the same thing. Technologies will have both positives and negatives. So we should ensure that we have to maximize the benefits and we have to minimize the negatives associated with any technology. Just write down a question. Yeah.
This doesn't come under subsidy, right? What now presently government is giving, this doesn't come under subsidy.
No.
So it comes under R&D.
R&D.
So it also supports World Trade Agreements.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can
So
be.
come out of this box like in the World Trade Organization.
We can, no country will stop us from investing money in research and development. If we invest in subsidies, then countries will start pointing fingers at us. We are investing in R&D, nobody will say anything.
Like we come from amber box to green box.
That boxes I don't remember, but what you said is very relevant. Definitely, nobody will complain on us. If we are
Exports will grow, means we can export to.
Definitely, why not? If we have our own GM varieties of seeds, we have more production, more productivity, we can always export it. It improves income security of the farmers. It will decrease our import dependency. Presently, we are importing lots of oil seeds and many things. Having such a vast or diverse agricultural agroclimatic region, still we trying to import crops from other countries, some certain types of exotic fruits and all. Though we have this diverse agroclimatic conditions, it's not correct. Why not? We can produce in our own country. Yes. Any doubts? Just write down a question. What do you understand? What do you understand by the concept of genetically modified crops? What do you understand by the concept of genetically modified crops? Discuss in detail. Discuss in detail various benefits. Discuss in detail various benefits of genetically modified crops. Discuss in detail various benefits of genetically modified crops. Mention few challenges. Mention few challenges in their adoption. Mention few challenges in their adoption. Suggest a way forward. Suggest a way forward. Okay.
So can we add the 3 million meals also? Like it's a statistic.
It's a statistic. Yeah. Means like countries which have more prudent food safety standards than we have, they are allowing their citizens, then it's,
Can we say in that way?
why not? Why not? You can say it, but we should do this. We should also conduct adequate trials on Indian citizens also. We should not outrightly say that.
Directly
Without
directly just
Select controlled experiments we can do. After establishing the food safety, then we have to encourage its utilization. Clear? Let's quickly revise. So genome editing technology, I told, right? Cut from here and paste anywhere. CRISPR Cas9 system. These are molecular scissors, isn't it? Weed resistant, vitamin A, all these things. say high production, more fiber, pest. Two varieties of rice. One is Samba variety, other is Sona Masuri variety. Just for the simplicity of understanding, I said. So it has these two traits. This one has these traits. Don't you think I can combine traits of two, so I can produce a better variety? This is what we can do. So what is BT cotton actually? It's a pest resistant variety of cotton. And after the introduction of BT cotton, production of the cotton also has increased. Less pest infestation, more the production, more the productivity, right? Some people say that rise of Narendra Modi to power is directly proportional to introduction of BT cotton in Gujarat. Because at that point of time, farmers in Gujarat, they become rich, they become wealthy, and yes, Narendra Modi's decision to introduce BT cotton in Gujarat, that's led to prosperity or wealth of the farmers, and they have made him, they have ensured that he continue in the power. Yeah, that's a political thing, not relevant here, just saying. So
there is a criticism or like allegation that because of BT cotton there is some spread of cancer in the women.
that's what. These are all not still properly established. Research and development, the research is ongoing. Conclusively, if something is established, then it would have been reported in newspapers. We have a vibrant media in our country, isn't it? Not that every other media channel is sold out. So it would have come out by this time. But allegations will always be there, and we cannot outrightly say that allegations are incorrect. All possibilities, we have to leave it open. Yes. So do we have any GM food crop in our country? No. GM crops have so many benefits, then why aren't we allowing their cultivation? You know. Benefits of GM crops: higher productivity, less fertilizers, less pesticides, less weedicides, can improve soil health, pest resistant, weed resistant varieties, drought resistant, can grow with less water, so we can minimize form flooding, isn't it? Form flooding can cause methane gas emissions, oxides of nitrogen emissions. So less emissions, less global warming, if I prefer cultivating GM crops. Then we can also produce climate change resilient crops, something which can withstand climate change. Biofortified crops, so it can address malnutrition problem. Fortification means addition, example is iodized salt. So trying to add nutrient at the stage of growth of plant. Staple crop, deficit nutrient, biofortified. Phenomenon of biofortification. So problems with GM crops: food safety, seed sovereignty, seed diversity, genetic contamination. Food safety, yes, we can conduct pilot experiments in India and later adopt. World over 3 trillion meals are already consumed in advanced economies with much stringent regulatory standards than what we have in our country. So GM technology, GM crops, it's a Terminator technology, isn't it? Crop season 1, next cropping season, Terminator seeds, they will not germinate. So some MNC will be holding this patent, which are patented chemicals. They have to be treated with patented chemicals. It may dictate price of seeds. In long run, MNCs also may determine cropping pattern. So sovereignty is lost. Autonomy, freedom is lost. Seed diversity, we may neglect native strains for GM crops. Did we thoroughly document genetic merit of all native seeds? Genetic contamination, gene escaping from a G crop, maybe by a virus or by accidental pollination, possible health issues might arise. Then, never say no to technology. Human progress is directly related to technology, but always work to maximize the benefits of technology and minimize the negative fallouts of technology. So, how to address the problem of seed sovereignty? We have one of the world's largest agriculture R&D ecosystem. Let's do publicly funded research. Seed diversity, let's try to develop seed banks at village. We will preserve native till we complete establishing the genetic merit. So yes, few more things I have included in the slides. So if a plant needs a trait that can't be achieved through advanced breeding, a gene can be turned off or removed, or a gene from other source can be inserted. There is another related concept to GM crop, that is gene silencing. You would have been taught in your science and technology, even if it's not, just be aware of it. Gene silencing, because current affairs textbooks are writing about this. Gene silencing. Some people say that gene silencing to some extent can address the criticism of GM crop. GM crop, we are trying to play with the genes, right? Play with the genetics, means play with the nature, play with the God. That's what some people say. In gene silencing, we don't do that. We'll just silence expression of some genes. I know, it must be a little confusing. Let's say this is a gene in a coffee plant. This is a gene in a coffee plant, or this is a DNA in a coffee plant, and this DNA in coffee plant has, say, let's imagine this gene is for the taste or flavor of the coffee, and this gene is for color. What is it? Rangu, Ruchi, something else will be there. Okay, let's not call Chikkadanam. Let's say caffeine content. Caffeine content. Say what all we enjoy in a coffee or a tea. We enjoy the taste or flavor of it. Some also enjoy the color of it and also the consistency of it. But yes, people like me who have migraine headaches, we don't like caffeine. We want to taste coffee. We would like to taste coffee minus the high caffeine content. What happened? Okay, minus the caffeine content. Minus the caffeine content. Likewise, many things. Some of you may like the taste of brinjal, but you don't like the seeds in brinjal. Likewise, many things which we eat or many things which we drink, we like them, but we don't like certain aspects of them. Any gene the functioning of the gene is such that it's all about the expression of the gene now. It's all about the expression of the gene. Call it functional expressivity. Call it functional expressivity. And this is how the genes would express. Genes would express. Now what I will do? I will silence a gene. Which is responsible for the caffeine content. Same flavor, same taste, same everything except less caffeine. So this possibility also exists. It's a new technology, very new technology, but it has a lot of potential in the agriculture field. It also has a lot of potential in the medical field. A lot of potential in other biotechnology things. Read about it today if you find time. It's an important idea.
Deactivating the nature of a gene.
Yes.
Particular nature.
Yeah. Trying to suppress its expression. Every gene has its functional expression. Ma. That. What ma? Only one gene I will silence. Which the gene which does not have the desired thing which I want, I will silence it. Rest of the gene I will allow to express because I don't have problem with the rest of the genes. Only this one has the problem. So let me prevent it from expressing itself. Possibility exists, and yes, there are also examples. Read about it when you find time, because UPSC is, especially science and technology, they are asking only advanced concepts. They are not going to basics and asking you fruits, flowers, the days are gone. Botany, zoology thing they are not asking.
Seedless grapes, under what genre does it come? Like, is it gene silencing or modified one?
I don't know. It must be, that's only hybrid variety. It must be a hybrid variety wherein they would have taken away the seed. It's not even a GM crop. See, even before GM is a new technology, even before GM has come into picture, we have hybrid cultivating varieties. That's there through inbreeding techniques, breeding techniques we call them. Breeding techniques means like in the fields itself, they'll do all these experiments. spraying pollen of one type of plant on other variety of plant, and they'll produce a new variety of seeds. These are there from last 100-150 years. Some people say that even from the ancient times also people used to practice this breeding varieties. Though we do not have documented evidences, but yes, they are there. Documented evidences also we are having for last 100-150 years, isn't it? That breeding varieties are there. We call them cultivars, cultivating varieties. Cultivars are cultivating varieties. These are all relatively new technologies, GM technologies and all. With the advent of DNA technology, recombinant DNA technology we call it, all these possibilities have come out. Yes.
So just to clarify, gene editing and gene silencing, both of them are different things.
Different things.
Or is it just part, one of it is a part of another?
I think silencing also is a type of editing. So I don't know if gene silencing can be placed as a subset under genome editing. I never read it like that. Let's read them as separate concepts because they seem separate, right? Editing means you are cutting, pasting. Silencing means you are silencing something.
That's what I want.
Yeah. Read those slides. They'll just enhance your understanding of the topic. I don't want to discuss them now again. Read this timeline of how BT cotton has come to India. Right. So this completes the discussion on that. The topic of GM crops. You understood now Cartagena protocol. So Cartagena protocol is on bio safety. Nagoya protocol is on. Yeah. Tell me more about Nagoya protocol. What is that? What is that actually?
Equitable sharing of
Yeah, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from utilization of genetic resources. That is about Nagoya protocol. Nagoya protocol, isn't it? Yes. What are biodiversity registers? Biodiversity registers.
maintained at panchayat.
Hmm?
Yeah, maintained at the panchayat.
Yeah, what they'll do?
They
They'll
have
collect
Keeping track of
biodiversity in
species
that
which
particular
are
area.
in particular.
Yeah, documenting the biodiversity of a particular region. Documenting the biodiversity of a particular region is the mandate of this biodiversity registers. Biodiversity registers. What ma? Yeah. Then. Okay, next session I'll take for questions. Today, yeah. Which means I expect you to read. Next session we will spend first 15 minutes on asking questions. Now I've shared the entire PDF with you. So what all I have discussed in the class, I have already shared that PDF. Read that. Yes. So Aichi biodiversity targets. What are these Aichi biodiversity targets? Yeah. These are in the nature of certain international level targets, part of Convention on Biodiversity itself, to safeguard biodiversity. As simple as that. To safeguard biodiversity. These are the targets which we have kept at the world level, globe level, and they will be monitored at the national level. To
So is it under any specific organization?
CBD.
CB.
Yeah. Now, so these type of questions, na? What the hell? They'll help you in writing some answers. I'll do something if I discuss with you directly. Yeah, let's do this. Write down a question. What do you understand by the concept of biodiversity? What do you understand by the concept of biodiversity? Discuss in detail various measures, discuss in detail various measures that should be taken, discuss in detail various measures that should be taken, discuss in detail various measures that should be taken to safeguard biodiversity. Discuss in detail various measures that should be taken to safeguard biodiversity. I'll give you 7 minutes time. Now it is 10:36, right? Think over to safeguard biodiversity. Ma. Okay, it's 10:36 now. 10:44, I'll initiate the discussion. Based on the discussion happened over last many classes, use that accumulated knowledge, accumulated experience to come up with a good quality answer. Okay. Any difficulty in understanding question? Bhagavat, you understood the question, ma? Yes. Krishna, we have students online? We have students online? Students are, no. Like, at least by the time we end this module, you all should know how to read this topic on your own, how to write answers in the topic of environment, how to bring in specific, the relevant jargon related to environment in your answers, how to establish interlinkages between different ideas. It's not that environment, biodiversity, climate change are three isolated entities. Each of them is linked to other one. So that part is supposed to be taken care, isn't it? Yes. So, having said this, these are the let me listen from you, then I'll start. I'll start with you, Vaishnavi. Tell. Measures.
Monitoring or keeping track of invasive species.
Very good. Yes.
Avoiding construction in the middle of the forest.
Preventing habitat fragmentation. I would have been more happy if you have used that term. Yes.
Awareness, bringing awareness to the people on the value of species
Mm.
and biodiversity.
Very good. Yes.
Preserving biodiversity hotspots.
Okay. Designated areas are supposed to be given protection. Okay. Good. That's it. Okay. Yourself.
So basically biodiversity, we have defined it as species diversity, genetic diversity and ecosystem diversity. Along those terms, what are the international measures, domestic and individual measures which we have taken? So first of all, international we have CVD, and under CVD we have two protocols, Cartagena and Nagoya.
As measures to be taken, not measures already taken.
Okay, and then when we come, so that was just one small point. Then after that, in domestic PA, under national level, we can take measures such as establishing biodiversity hotspots, preventing habitat fragmentation, habitat degradation, and then habitat destruction.
Loss.
So, these things we can do on national and state level. And then under district level, we can establish bioregisters, which will enable us to biomimic and bioprospect the local varieties and species. On an individual level, we can induce behavioral change from ecocentric approach by methods such as ethical consumerism, and then utilizing eco-friendly modes of transportation and eco-friendly practices. So that
Should have been a little more specific to the topic of biodiversity. Ideas are good enough, can be a little more specific. Okay? Yes, yeah.
In the same way, like I have dealt in the international level, national level, and the individual level and the certain level. So on the international level, implementing the various protocols which are adhering the biodiversity first, in letter and spirit, and also attaching a monetary value. So if at all, if a countries participate in that, so they will be given some basis points because of which they will be having some higher grading, and sticking to the INDC goals which individual countries have determined, which ultimately facilitates the development of the biodiversity within the regions. and also creating a global consensus. Like when we are depleting the Great Barrier Reefs, it's not just a problem of the Australia, but it's a wealth of the world. So global consensus need to be done. Like it's a wealth of the world. So all stakeholders must be involved in it when we are trying to touch something of the global wealth. Like
Yeah, we
it's
call
a
it the
global-
concept of global commons.
Global commons.
What he's saying is concept of global commons means something which is common to whole globe. Any examples? Very good. High seas.
Glaciers.
I don't think glaciers are part of Antarctica. Atmosphere. Outer space. These are not considered property of any one single country. These are global commons. So it's the responsibility of the entire humanity to safeguard these high seas, Antarctica, atmosphere, outer space. In your international relations also you will study about this, right? In PSI also. For global commons we have global level organizations, global level institutions, and of course that should be based on consensus among various stakeholders. Okay. Yeah.
On the national level, like every country determines the biological hotspots. So more focus on biological hotspots, and also ensure that there are no pollution emissions in the vicinity of the biological hotspot, which disturbs the biology
Good.
hotspots. So different types of pollutions which are already present, and little challenges with it, how to tackle them.
Okay.
And on the individual level, sensitization regarding the biodiversity, and also reviving the ancient Indian ethos, which maintained a balance between the nature, and spreading the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and also
Why Vasudhaiva
Swachh
Kutumbakam?
Bharat,
Okay.
Like it's nothing but a global common, but I want to spread from the Indian side, India perspective.
Okay, fine. Just like students in every other answer, they'll write about $5 trillion Indian economy and Atmanirbhar Bharat. A question on social capital, they'll write Atmanirbhar Bharat. Some faculty, some people would have told in your answers, if you conclude with these kind of things, it will add. Okay, it will add, but it may not backfire. The people who are evaluating like us now will feel bored. We always look up to new things, new ideas, original thinking, creativity. That is more appreciated. Just because somebody has said, like in every conclusion I'll write $5 trillion economy, sustainable development goals, in every conclusion or every introduction I'll talk about. Try to think on your own. Come up with new ideas. That will be more interesting, isn't it? Yeah, Nihar?
Decrease no overexploitation of resources, so that concerns will decrease. So then decrease the pollutants and move to better resources, so that it doesn't disturb the pollution causes loss of biodiversity. Then tackling the invasive species, preventing habitat loss, fragmentation and degradation, so that it doesn't lead to inbreeding depression. Implementing the CBD goals effectively at all the 3 levels. Better awareness and behavioral change in the people.
Good.
Decreasing the poaching and hunting in forests.
Good. Yes.
Maintaining the biodiversity resource, which falls in languages. Decreasing monocropping and improving mixed cropping.
Sustainable agricultural practices. That's what you still are not getting into that. You should come up with the right jargon. You should have simply written like sustainable agricultural practices, which are biodiverse friendly, likewise, isn't it? Yes. Now let's see. If you observe, the most of the points which you guys have mentioned, you will find it here again. But the jargon, specific jargon, they'll be writing. So that automatically takes care of the quality of the presentation. Got it? Yes.
tap on it. So tap.
I tapped on this, kada? Okay, fine, I'll do it. Okay. So improve awareness on biodiversity. You guys have already told it. Mainstream biodiversity means popularize the concept of biodiversity. Let everybody talk about biodiversity. Like now biodiversity registers, biodiversity management committees. Up to grassroots level, now awareness on biodiversity has spread, but in reality it hasn't spread. But yes, it has to be, it's supposed to be like that. Even at the level of grassroots level, people must be aware of the importance of biodiversity. Reform incentives. Reform incentives means, say if somebody is trying to bring reforms, genuine reforms in their policies to improve biodiversity, we should incentivize them. We should incentivize them. We should incentivize. Say if some state, if it completely prohibits plastic, let us incentivize. If some state, if it declares buffer zones of 10-kilometer radius above all the protected areas, let's incentivize them. Somebody is taking some reforms which contribute to good, we should incentivize them. This point you can write anywhere. The reason why I am taking time to discuss these 20 points, these 20 points, they are like a framework, you can use them anywhere. Question on climate change, question on biodiversity, question on ecosystems, whatever it is, you can use these ideas. Who is stopping us? It's all about intelligent application of these ideas. Look, implement plans for sustainability. In some plans, whatever it can be, the sustainable transportation plan, sustainable housing plan, sustainable agricultural plan, whatever it is, implement such plans. That will automatically add up to biodiversity. Reduce habitat loss and degradation. Reduce habitat loss and degradation. You guys already know what is reduction of. Then fish sustainably. Fish sustainably means what is this? Sustainable fishing. I think we discussed, right, in the class. Sustainable fishing, not coral reefs. I discussed separately, right? Sustainable fishing. Others also I discussed, right? Like how by provision of technologies like satellite technology, fishing schools can be precisely. I did not. I'll just discuss it. It's a very important concept. Let me take 2 minutes of your time. I think a couple of years ago also they have asked a question similar to this. Sustainable fishing means adoption of fishing practices which are sustainable in nature. So what different ways we can make fishing sustainable? We can make fishing sustainable. First things first, fishing holidays means every year people from Godavari districts, they must be aware, certain point of time in any year fishermen are not allowed to go into seas, isn't it? In this movie, I saw that movie a couple of days back. Uppena. Yeah, that movie also they have told it, right, specifically during this period, but our protagonist and heroine will go violating the rule, of course not for fishing. So yes, fishing holidays have to be strictly adhered to. Fishing holidays have to be strictly adhered to. So that why fishing holidays have to be strictly adhered to?
So they will be increasing the production of fish.
Reproduction.
Giving time for breeding. You should give time for breeding. So if you give time for breeding, then the next crop would be ready. But if you are constantly harvesting, continuously harvesting, there won't be space or time left for new crop. That's the reason. Fishing holidays is something very important for sustainably fishing. It also safeguards the ecosystems. Also, it's not just for benefits of the humans, it will also safeguard the ecosystems. Then, usage of technologies like, say, remote sensing satellites, remote sensing satellites, navigation satellites. How remote sensing satellites, navigation satellites help us? Very simple. Say, fishes, they always have this tendency to occur in schools. Schools means? Yeah, bunch. Group of fishes, they will be moving together. Presently, what fishermen do? They enter into sea and they roam throughout the sea, and maybe at the end they'll come here. So this is like taking a lot of time, wasting a lot of fuel, lots of efforts. Further, what they'll do? Here they will net, damage the ecosystem. There will be lot of bycatch. Remember this term I used, bycatch. Means something other than what is intended. If I throw a net into the sea, would only fish come? No. Everything that gets in the net will come. Many times those which you are getting as part of catch is not or does not have any commercial value. Not every fish has commercial value. Only those fishes which have commercial value they will take. Rest all what they will do, they will dump into they will die before they sort. Then that waste bycatch, what they will do, they will drop into the sea. Like this, imagine at how many different places, how much of bycatch they are creating. This is destroying the ecosystem. Isn't it, ma? Every time the bycatch will be around 50 to 60%, sometimes even more. Because they are not aware where exactly the fishing schools are located. Many species of turtles, many species of sea snakes, archons, all these, they don't have edible value, but they are all getting extinct because of this unsustainable fishing practice. So, but if we can specifically tell them this is where the fishing resources are located, we have now advanced remote sensing satellites. They are helping us in resource mapping, isn't it? It would have been discussed in your satellite topic, satellite technology in SNT. Remote sensing satellites will tell us where the resources are located, forest resources, mineral resources, fishing resources, whatever it is, different resources, where they are located, they will tell us. Now they will tell us this is where the resources are located. They will give us the specific coordinates, GPS coordinates. Now navigation satellites will help us in navigating, and fishermen will directly go here, get the fish catch, come back. In less time, yes, less energy, less fuel, less effort, and with minimal destruction of the ecosystem. They'll get a fish catch. Isn't it? This also will help them. Say often they get lost in the seas. They'll miss their way. And also during times of disasters, say cyclonic events, tsunami events likewise, it will be easy to save, it will be easy to locate them. We know specifically where they are located. So rescue operations will become easy. Rescue will become easy. Got it? Yes. And other kind of sustainable fishing practices can be like, say these days they are suggesting for cage culture. Cage culture. Cage culture means, like, especially in seas, you construct cage on the shores and grow all those commercially viable fishes in this cages. Why going into sea? Use the sea space effectively. Shore space, use it effectively. With artificial nets you create. I have included one good image also, I'll show you. So that spaces we can use it for cage culture. In the cages we can fish, it's easy now. Catch will be very high also, and that too very specific catch. You just have to have the seed, right seed, then you will get right crop. right crop. Cage culture also is now being popularized. And of course, other one is to minimize bycatch, there is something called as TED devices, turtle excluder devices. Turtle excluder, though they are called turtle excluder devices, they will also exclude other bycatch. So we can suggest them to use nets with this kind of excluder. Excluder means they will exclude. Exclude what? Bycatch. Maximize the fish catch. So all these things we can do to encourage sustainable fishing. And of course we have to discourage fishermen from using dynamite fishing. You remember that? Dynamite fishing, all these kind of, sometimes they also resort to poisoning. They should not do that. And also with lots of greed, all these big trawlers will be there, commercial scale shipping. They try to use heavy trawlers which can damage ocean bottoms. All these things we have to control. And strictly we have to regulate harvesting of certain species. Some of the protected species like dolphins, whales and sharks, they are illegally hunted or illegally poached. That also will contribute to damage to ecosystem, especially the apex predators. You know, right? I've shown that image also to you. Sharks. If sharks are gone, it can have impact on the entire ecosystem. Remember that sharks, apex predator, sharks number declining, impacting entire ecosystem. Try to recollect that discussion. Likewise. So sustainable fishery can be an important 10 marker in your exam. So problems with unsustainable fishing, and how to make fishing sustainable, both are important ideas. So fish sustainably, to safeguard oceanic biodiversity, make farming and make forestry sustainable, means sustainable agriculture, sustainable farming, reduce pollution, tackle invasive species, minimize impacts of climate change. I'll talk.
What is invasive?
Oh, invasive, you were in there in the last class. It's a big topic. Read it. Anything you don't understand, tell me. We had around half an hour, 45 minutes discussion. Yeah. I'll explain. Invasive species means those species which are non-native or alien or which get invaded into a new ecosystem. Are called as invasive species. Classical example, water hyacinth, you would have seen. Water hyacinth means on the seas, on the lake surfaces, you would have seen green growth. That's aquatic weed. It's an aquatic weed. It's an invasive species. It spoils the lake ecosystem, health of the lake ecosystem. Then pigeons. Pigeons are actually not native to India. They are introduced into India from somewhere, from Middle East. Now they have emerged as a menace. They are, proliferating in numbers excessively, and they are, because of them, they are competing with other species for food, space, everything. So yes, in that way, the invasive species can have impact on the biodiversity. Clear about this, everybody? Then minimize climate change impacts. Climate change topic is yet to be discussed. You will understand how climate change can impact biodiversity. Protect and manage critical sites. Yes, we have to protect the critical sites and we also have to manage them effectively. Critical sites mean those biodiversity hotspots or biodiversity heritage sites like that. Prevent extinctions. Yes. Maintain genetic diversity. Of course, we have to maintain genetic diversity. Maintain genetic diversity. Yes. Safeguard ecosystem services. You know what is ecosystem services. We had a detailed discussion. Then restore degraded forests. Implement access and benefit sharing. You know already what is access and benefit sharing. Implement national level plans. Then protect traditional knowledge, share biodiversity knowledge, increase conservation finance. Finance means, money which is essential to improve diversity. Of course, we have a separate topic called as climate change finance. We already discussed something called as green finance. This is an example of a green finance. Example of a green finance. Clear, ma? I'll leave 1 minute. Let me see the next slide then. Yeah, we'll come back and discuss.